Welcome to another AMA section, everyone. I'm Moonshine and I'll be your host today. We are joined by the team Unbound Science, a project that is bringing a unique approach to DeFi and attracting attention for its vision and innovation. Representing the project today, we have Aaron, who will be taking us through what the team is trying to build, the problem they are solving, and what is ahead for every listener right now. We have prepared some interesting questions, so stay tuned as we uncover what makes this project worth watching. So, Aaron, would you mind starting by introducing yourself and the team behind Unbounded Science?
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you for having me here at GoldDiggers Calls, and thank you to everyone in the community for listening in. My name is Aaron Malone. I'm the CEO and founder of Unbound Science. I started this company almost on accident. I was working as managing director of Collective Ventures in 2022 when I found out about Decentralized Science. In a room of maybe 15 people at Decentral over in Miami. And I thought what they were building was absolutely fascinating. They were trying to apply the same principles of Bitcoin to science as a way of creating global communities that could come together to solve rare problems that weren't getting funded anywhere else. That was the thesis of early DeSci. And I thought this was the coolest thing, and I wanted to invest in it. And as I started looking at a lot of the things that were being built, there wasn't anything that I really considered investable. They were great ideas, but there wasn't any type of business that made sense to me, and there wasn't any kind of guaranteed revenue that was going to go back to the token holders. It was just another coin that people would buy to support a project that maybe wasn't going to support them back. And I thought, well, there has to be a better way. So what are the problems in science itself that we're facing here as a society today? And I don't see anyone addressing this. So as I traveled around the world, talking to different scientists and different crypto builders, what I learned really blew me away. The point of science is to question what is the true nature of our reality. And until we have that answer, we can't even begin to ask the question, what is our purpose here as humans? But those are two of the most fundamental things that people have questioned for all of time. And yet we still don't have an answer for sure. And why not? Well, as I came to discover, there are certain narratives of how the world works that are allowed to be said, and anything that goes outside that box or tries to invent beyond a certain point is just simply not allowed. And if you do, you may go missing. And we've seen this happen now, even just the past couple of years, with several scientists, about a dozen now, that are working on fusion energy and anti-gravity. They've simply disappeared, or they've been found dead, and they're claimed to be it claims to be a suicide, when you can check their social media and they simply say, like, well, I'm not suicidal, I am under some sort of watch, such as Amy Eskridge. So I said there has to be something done about this. And because no one was building it, I took it upon myself to do it. And even though it's very dangerous, I don't have a wife, I don't have kids, so it might as well be me that steps up to do this. What I learned in talking to scientists is that we have the technology for infinite abundance, free energy, the best type of healthy food available for free, clean water, sanitation, and even quantum medical health, so nobody ever gets sick or gets cancer ever again. All these technologies exist today, but are held back from the public because people who are heavily invested in oil and gas and pharmaceuticals forbid it because they make too much money the way things are. So they do not allow change whatsoever. So I said, to hell with them. We are human beings, and no one person has the right to dictate quality of life for everybody else on the planet. So what I built is a platform that scientists can release their inventions on, and they can open source it, just like software engineers can open source software on GitHub. It's the same principle, except here they're releasing blueprints and instruction manuals and how-to videos and materials lists, so anyone can follow along and rebuild and replicate these inventions wherever they are in the world. But this also extends to medical and biohacking, or bioharmony, for a better term. So people can be perfectly healthy no matter where they are and get access to not just supplements and medications, but quantum energy and other things that are freely available everywhere to keep one's body in balance with their environment. And that's really what causes people to become sick in the first place, is when their electrical frequency degrades and they've got all kinds of pollutants coming in. So we want to clean all that up and then extend this out to the entire globe to clean up humanity from the ground up without asking permission, without needing permission. So that's the mission that we're on at Unbound Science. It's so much bigger than just a crypto project. But it does use cryptocurrency to have donation pools to support these inventors for sharing their inventions and to help them continue to do their research and development, and also for the community to vote and have a say in what gets brought into the world. So that's where the Unite token comes in. And the Unite token is special because it gives dividends from all the fees collected on the platform. And not just in more Unite token, but in USDC or some other stable coin we'll be using to give people a weekly income just for holding and staking the Unite token. In addition to the Unbound Science platform, we're creating several other products that will collect fees and support the Unite token holders and the ecosystem and the scientists as well, which has never been done before. So when I set out to do this, tokenomics is one of the things that I'm a specialist in. And I studied for about 2 years to make sure that we're going to create the absolute #1 best altcoin that crypto has ever seen, that's backed by real value, not just speculation.
I really appreciate the detailed background of what you guys are actually trying to build, the problem being seen, and how you guys intend to tackle each of this problem. I mean, what you guys are actually trying to solve, it's something that is very relatable to everyone in that field. And I'm sure any listener, who listen to what you just explained can definitely relate to most of these issues and see how you guys are actually trying to solve them. So, the first question I actually want to ask is, Unbounded Science repeatedly emphasizes that scientists retain 100% ownership of their inventions. If that is the case, what mechanism exists to ensure the platform remains economically sustainable as the value of technologies funded through the ecosystem grows into billion-dollar industries?
One of the aspects of our ecosystem is distribution. We encourage scientists not to get involved with starting their own business with their invention because it becomes a huge target. Rather, we recommend them to license or lease their technology to existing manufacturers around the globe. This way, they don't need to raise $1 billion to create their own factory. and with alliances with existing manufacturers that have political pull, like Samsung or GE, for example, it's going to allow them to play along rather than be super disruptive. And then they can simply earn potentially millions of dollars in passive income, and then they can still remain scientists rather than trying to become businessmen. And our platform takes a portion of those fees, and that's what would get distributed to token holders. In addition, we operate the platform like a traditional SaaS model where we have different subscription tiers for storage. So the free tier will allow the inventor to store their life's work across distributed storage. But if they upgrade to the professional version, then they'll get access to lots of AI tools that we're building just for scientists. Things like language translation, infographic generation, video walkthroughs, and many other things as well. And again, from these fees that are collected, that goes to the token holders.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, another part of the project that I actually wanted to bring a question from is, I see that the platform rewards time spent engaging with scientific content. So how do you distinguish meaningful scientific engagement from users simply optimizing their behavior to find rewards?
We have 40% of the entire token supply available over the next 20 years that's paid out in weekly epochs that has sort of halving schedules like Bitcoin does. And we look at the total engagement on the platform for the week, and we reward the most valuable content and the most valuable contributions the most. So if you're just leaving a lot of comments and watching a lot of videos, we also can look and say, what is the quality of these comments that are being left? If it's simply just a fire emoji, you're going to get a little bit for engagement and for watching the content, but it's not going to be nearly as much as someone who made a video or made an article or did a peer review of that video. So we'll be very hands-on. The key is, in order to get that weekly stipend, you have to stake your tokens and agree to become a platform moderator. This is how we get around U.S. securities laws, is you sign the terms of service to actually contribute your own time into keeping the platform clean and honest. So the moderators will look at all this stuff and help with the distribution of the tokens fairly.
Great. I think that makes a lot of sense. It kind of attracts more people who would want to or who would be willing to stake their token, right? And just because you already mentioned the token, could you walk us through some of the use cases of the token and probably also extend into explaining what the tokenomics is like? I know you've touched on part of, some allocations, some percents, and where they are being allocated to. But you could as well just walk us through by talking about the use cases of the token in the ecosystem.
So outside of the donation pools and the voting of their distribution, the Unite token is staked within the ecosystem to earn those dividends and to unlock moderator privileges on the Unbound Science platform. However, as I hinted to earlier, there's more than just Unbound Science in this ecosystem. For example, the next tool is freaking.fun, which is a fun way of recycling your old crypto tokens to get something better. Maybe you've got some dead projects in your wallet. I know I do. So we built some things that are kind of fun, a little bit of gambling, a little bit of recycling to refresh your portfolio. The token stakers will get access to more options than the regular public without the tokens. For example, we have a section of curated portfolios from professional crypto VCs. So you can let the smart money do the due diligence for you and go along with some of the biggest whales and smartest people in the space. Those unlock for Unite token stakers. One of the things we're working on in addition to that is the code name right now is Draft Crypto, and it's a combination of fantasy sports and crypto trading, where you would go on the platform and you get matched up one trader versus another trader. You would go in and draft tokens like you would players in a fantasy football draft. And then you would spend either 1 day or 1 week trading against each other with hyperliquid perps and setting your lineups long or short, benching certain coins, activating others. And then we have what's called boosts, where for 24 hours you can set a token position with small amounts of leverage. And the more Unite that you stake, the more boosts you have and the higher leverage you can use. So that's another way of collecting fees as well, as you would put up a wager. And there's different leagues for the amount of wager that you would put in, and the platform keeps a percentage of that. So that's a very novel esports sort of way of collecting more fees that would go to the token holders and more utility for the Unite tokens. So we're always trying to think of new and interesting platforms that we haven't seen in crypto yet that we'd like to, and then how do we add more and more value to the Unite token so far. That's a lot already for products that haven't even fully launched yet. We have the alpha already done for Unbound Science and for Freaking.fun, and Draft Crypto is still in its design phase. So while I want to promise more, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but we still have the idea of continuing to add more and more value and utility to Unite tokens over time. As far as the tokenomics go, there's 1 billion tokens in total supply. As I mentioned, 40% of it is emitted over 20 years. 10% of it is owned by the Unbound Science Foundation, and that's locked forever. So rather than dumping tokens to fund operations like every other foundation, because of that revenue share component, the foundation runs off of collecting the fee shares just like everybody else. So if the foundation wants to grow and they want to get raises, they need to perform and promote the platform to get fees. And then the team building the products at Obsanity Labs, the developer entity, they get 10% vesting over 4 years. There's 15% that's available as a public sale right now. You can go to CoinMetro or AscendX and simply just put a limit order in the book, and the market maker will fill it for you at just about any amount. So that's what they've been instructed to do. It's kind of like a liquidity bootstrap pool without officially using one. We tried different launch pads and things, and they were just all a horrible experience. So we just went right to the exchanges that have the CEOs that I personally know and are reputable. So that's where you can get Unite tokens today.
Great, that makes a lot of sense and brings more clarification to, the other part, the other side of the project, which is how you guys manage allocations and where the percent and revenues will all be allocated to. Thank you so much for the transparency concerning that. So
Point
the
to
next
that
question.
that I forgot to mention. The circulating supply is not yet listed on CoinGecko, but it's about 36%.
Okay, thank you so much for throwing that in as well. So just for clarification still on the tokenomics, is that percent allocated to the team itself and is it vested or locked? How is it going to be like?
The 36% includes The 15% that is available to the public, it includes the 20% marketing pool that is technically unlocked but is not available to be spent entirely. And then there's 1% that is from the friends and family round that has been unlocked.
Okay, great. That makes a lot of sense. So the next aspect I wanted to ask about is the voting power, right? So the platform suggests that donors may receive higher voting weight than other participants. What safeguards exist to prevent wealthy donors from effectively steering scientific priorities towards personal interest?
This is a very important thing that we've thought long and hard about in order to avoid happening. Otherwise, it would just be the same thing that's already happening right now. So what we did is we capped not just the user vote, but the user group vote weight as well. So all donors, not just one donor, but all donors can't take up the entire vote, no matter how many tokens they have. It will only allow them to vote so much. That way they can have significant influence, as they should, but they can't completely dominate it. So for example, if we have a very, let's say, controversial invention for energy that could be very disruptive, and the public really, really wants it, but there's some donors that come in at the last minute and try and buy the vote, they're not going to be able to. The public will be able to overrule them as a majority. So let's say we're still working on the final numbers and running a lot of simulations, but let's say the donors or any other group for that matter can not exceed 40% of the total vote. There's four groups, four different user groups, and I think 40% cap for any group is probably a good number. But we'll continue to play with it and make sure that no matter what, no one can come in and just buy the vote and overrule the will of the people.
Yeah, it's good to see that it's something that the team has acknowledged and see coming because it makes it easier for you guys to know where to tackle and how to solve this problem in advance before it comes, right? So that makes a lot of sense, and thank you so much for the transparency. So going back to the donation pools, it's very realistic to see that eventually these donation pools could eventually hold enormous amounts of capital. So what investment, treasury, and risk management principles will govern those funds before they are actually distributed to researchers?
There's a ongoing conversation always in crypto, and that's transparency versus privacy. Some people believe that in order for you to be decentralized, you need to have complete transparency. But I feel like at a certain point, the transparency becomes more of a liability and security risk. Because Ethereum smart contracts are human readable and open source, they're more vulnerable to getting hacked than something that has never been seen. And people have no idea how it actually works. So I've decided to build somewhere in the middle. And what we decided to do is build on Secret Network. So while all of our smart contracts will be audited, only the auditors and the developers will ever see them. As they get launched, they become encrypted. And what we'll be doing is having essentially dark treasury pools where no one can actually query the amounts. No one can find them. They're not searchable. But what we'll be doing is using a zero knowledge proof that does have that information and is encrypted also. So it will show the balances without ever revealing the addresses.
Good. That's actually a very different approach. to, solve this issue that could come up. So thank you so much for answering that. So another aspect I wanted to ask about is, the platform's vision is global, which is something very great, but scientific regulations differ dramatically between different jurisdictions. So is it something has the team of Unbound Science thought about this, and how will you guys handle inventions that are legal, fundable, or deployable in some regions but restricted in others?
There's a few different ways that we address it. One of the AI tools we're building is a patent checker. So you can see as an inventor if what you're working on infringes on any globally registered intellectual property. I think that's important. However, depending on what it is, um, like I said in the beginning, I don't believe that one person should be able to dictate the quality of life for everybody else. And as we go down that rabbit hole of what the true nature of reality is, in my opinion, intellectual property rights don't always make sense. Now, if a team works really, really hard and does a bunch of work, of course they need to be compensated for that. But if someone just has an idea that comes from the ether, sometimes it's not their idea in the first place. So it really just depends. Now, this is a decentralized distributed platform that we don't hold the keys to. We may be able to make front-end modifications, but we don't have access to take down anyone's data by design. So if I get called into court and they tell me to delete this information or block this user from ever storing their data online again, I can honestly say I can't. I don't have the keys to do so. And that's why we built this, to be a truly decentralized platform, not even in control of us. But with that said, we do have some control over the user interface, and that's to block spam, that's to block pornography or any other type of inappropriate content, and just keep the platform only for like a library of science. That's what we're after.
Good, good. Okay. So that's a very good answer. Thank you so much. So the next question I have is, a recurring theme throughout the project that I notice is that, science should serve humanity rather than institutions. So looking 10 years ahead, what measurable outcomes would convince you that Unbound Science successfully changed how innovation moves through the world?
Right now, I would say about 90% of scientists have no support rails whatsoever for funding or distribution. And a lot of people just simply stop doing science, which is what they love, and go get a job somewhere else. And this is a story I heard all over the world because there's simply not enough opportunities. So we want to provide opportunities for independent scientists the way creators and artists and musicians have been able to use the internet to make a living outside of major record labels and movie studios. I think we're in the very early stages, just like Bitcoin was in maybe 2011, where it doesn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people still. But maybe in 10 years from now, even institutions will notice and they'll want to participate. So we will have an institutional interface for research organizations and innovative studios at universities where they can track the researchers underneath them. They've got all kinds of technology just sitting on the shelf collecting dust, doing nothing. And we can open all that up so other companies across the world can lease this stuff. So it activates, decades of people's hard work that's currently not serving humanity at all. and creating additional revenue streams for these companies. Think of someone like Toyota, for example, and how many things that they must have invented in their research and development department, and how they have old engine designs that are no longer in production. They could simply lease that technology to another engine manufacturer in Ecuador or Ghana and allow them to create their own economies over in those regional areas and simply go through the platform and automatically share that revenue. And now Toyota is not just always having to create something new, but they can make money from the old stuff as well, because there's such a huge imbalance of technology around the world. Unlocking it in this manner really can help society that's in third world conditions catch up reasonably within just a few years instead of a few generations. So to me, that's how I gauge success, is how fast we can have equal access to technology around the world.
That makes a lot of sense. That definitely does. So the last question I have before we head over to some community questions: what kind of partnerships do you guys have right now, or what kind of partnerships are you guys looking to have to extend what you guys are building globally and create more adoption to?
The call I had earlier today that I was so excited about is for a new partnership and potentially someone joining our board of advisors. He runs a cancer hospital in India, and he speaks about health and biohacking all over the world. And he trains people how to correct their energy and avoid getting cancer in the first place. I mean, what he's doing is truly revolutionary, and he wants to share it with the world and replicate it and teach other institutions how to do this. So that's really, really exciting for us. We also have an early partnership with a quantum technology laboratory that's coming out with all kinds of devices to help regulate frequency. They have quantum batteries and different salts called M states that help regulate your body's frequency as well. It's a whole different way of looking at the human body as an electrical system as opposed to a chemical system. And just that philosophy alone has gotten scientists driven out of the United States or assassinated or put in prison. It's quite crazy to think that you're not allowed to have a differing opinion, but that's the facts of the matter and why we're doing what we're doing, to protect people like that. We're also looking for some university partnerships as well. And I've spoken at a couple of universities in the past who are very interested. And I was surprised. I was surprised at their level of interest, and I was surprised that the researchers at these universities were also really, really handcuffed by lack of funding and lack of support. It made me think, where does all this endowment money go if these researchers of all places are still struggling? What does that mean for everyone else? So in terms of partnerships, that's where we're at the moment. We're also working with some additional solutions groups that are trying to roll out health and wellness globally, and they want to use our platform to store their solutions and also work with the distribution channels. So I would say overall, this has been an extremely well-received project by the scientific community. The crypto community is still not sure. There hasn't been anything successful in DeSci to date besides bioprotocol. And people in crypto today are really here to make money today. And it is an unfortunate lack of long-term vision, both from the investors, the builders, and the VCs that are driving everything, that have made so many digital pugs that are worthless today. But I refuse to go down that path, and I want to show the entire industry that you can do things that make the world better, that make you a lot of money, and do so in a way where everyone wins.
Great. So I think that wraps up all the question from my end. I can see a lot of questions in the chat right now for you, and I'm sure we have some live questions. So, guys, if you have any question, kindly signify by raising your hands so I can unmute you to ask whatever questions you have. And I can also see some questions in the chat. So, a question came in here from Lap. Lap is asking, just give me a moment. He's asking, so Aaron, how do you onboard scientists who are crypto native?
If you're a crypto native scientist, you can onboard with a Kepler wallet, which is the native wallet to Secret Network. And Kepler also has a feature for OAuth using social media login. So that's how we're onboarding both crypto native and non-crypto native scientists at the moment. I think we want to integrate Nostr or Magic Link pretty soon for the production version, but for the alpha, we have Kepler Wallet.
Great. So let's have a live question here from Antoinette. So you can go ahead with your question.
Okay. Hey, Moonshine. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. How are you doing?
Okay. Thank you for this opportunity. Hey, Aaron. Um, Here's my question. Okay. Unbound Science emphasizes that inventors retain ownership of their innovations, but intellectual property disputes are often complex. If multiple researchers independently develop similar solutions or contribute to the same breakthrough through the program, how will ownership, copyright, and attribution be determined and enforced? Did you get that?
Yes. So we have a collaboration tool if multiple researchers want to work together to solve a problem. And the creator of that collaboration board can decide at the time of creation how to split up the IP. They can choose to keep it all for themselves and invite researchers who are underneath them that work for them to participate or volunteer. Or they can split all of the shares of IP equally amongst all contributors. Or they can use an AI tool to split things up based off of the quality of the contributions throughout the group once the research is complete. But then they have to agree that that judgment would be final. So those are the three ways that if someone using our collaboration tool can split up the IP. If they're coming in independently and there's many people working on the same problem, I think that's great as well. And I certainly encourage competition as well as collaboration, and may the best product win.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for that answer. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Antoinette, for asking a question about copyright, because I personally also believe that is a very important issue that every scientist has how to protect their rights, and something that also secures their work too. So thank you so much for that question. So let's have a question. Kelvin, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Moonshine. You were cutting off. Can I go with my question?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, thank you very much for meeting me. Basically, my question is about the people, people that are just new into crypto. How do you make the whole Unbound Science platform, easy and simple for people who are new to, the Web3, so that they can, understand and use it, join the ecosystem, and start contributing or benefiting from it without needing any, technical knowledge or prior experience or something like that?
That's a great question. And we're building this to have a Web 2-like experience where the wallets are abstracted in the background. They're handled by the platform. So you don't need to hold your private keys. You don't have to do wallet signing for every transaction. When you first sign up, there should be only one thing that you need to sign on your wallet that grants the permissions that you'll need for every other time. The only other situation where you would have to sign is where you would, confirm that you're publishing your work to the public. You're changing it from private to public, or you're using the dead man switch to then share ownership of all those files. But rather than it popping up in your wallet and asking you to sign this weird transaction, it's just going to be like a normal Web 2 experience where the pop-up says, "Are you sure?" And when you confirm, then it does all that other stuff in the background. Unless you are using the Kepler wallet as opposed to the social logins. So anyone using the social logins will have a Web 2-like experience. If you're using the Kepler wallet, then you have a little bit more control, but it becomes a little bit clunkier. I would say it's our top priority to make sure that this feels like a Web 2 experience that just happens to be built using Web 3 Rails.
Thank you very much, man. That really answered the question in detail, man. So this shows that you guys really, really have the community at heart. I really wish you guys best of luck on that. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. In addition to that, we've designed the website to look familiar. So on the scientist dashboard, it looks just like Google Docs, and it tells them exactly what we want them to upload and create in terms of materials for these projects. So they have a checklist of all the materials they need to create. And then on the user side, it looks exactly like YouTube. So if anyone's ever used YouTube or Google Docs, they can already use our platform. Very low learning curve.
Okay, thank you so much, Kelvin, for coming up with that question. It was actually a very great one too from your end. So let me get another question from the chat here. So Lisa is asking, the platform suggests the platform supports areas like clean energy, waste management, agriculture, and quantum technologies. Why were these sectors chosen first? And what framework determines whether new scientific categories are eventually added?
These technologies were picked first because I believe they're the most important monopolies that need to be, decentralized. Energy especially. That is what determines the quality of life for everyone on the planet. If we can get a free energy device, or at least alternative energy devices that allow us to not be dependent on the grid, suddenly we become free. The same thing for having access to healthy food and clean water and sanitation and waste management and health. If we just have those things that we rely on huge corporations and governments to supply for us, if we can control that ourselves, nobody can tell us what to do. That creates real freedom across the world, regardless of how much money someone has or what region they're born into. And I don't think that's going to get rid of governments or big corporations, but it's going to create competition. And when there's competition, they have to behave better, and they have to treat their citizens with respect instead of domination, because now their citizens have a choice. Their customers have a choice. So that's why we started with those four. As I've been traveling around and meeting so many people in the biohacking space, I realized this is an important movement that we need to support right out of the gate as well. So that will receive, that'll be our fifth category that is coming up. And then we'll also open things up to more areas of science. as these funding pools get filled. That will show that we're getting support where we need it, and then we can open it up to things like new materials and other things like that in the near future. But it's really just, I guess, as the demand requires it.
Okay, great. So let's have one more question from Live Bankies. You can go ahead with your question. Are you there, Bankies?
Oh yes, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay, thank you very much, Moonshine, for the opportunity. I just have one simple question to ask. I wanted to ask about the security of the platform. How secured is the investors fund? Thank you.
Yeah, it's a really big deal. Some of these scientists are going to come on the platform anonymously to leak technology that may or may not be alien in origin. And there are groups that will do anything to stop that from happening. So it is absolutely critical that we have not just military grade encryption, but NSA level encryption. One of the people I've met during my travels used to work for the NSA and has a proprietary encryption that they will be implementing on this platform that is not anywhere else in Web3. That's all I'll say about that. Again, because the least that is known about this, the harder it's going to be to hack. But we're approaching this in a security first type of fashion, not just because there's people's money on the line, but people's lives are on the line. And it's our responsibility to protect them.
Does that answer your question, Bankies?
Yes, it does. It does. Thank you very much, Moonshine, for the opportunity. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for throwing in that question. And the last question from the chat that we would be taking today is many transformative. Okay, this question is coming from Jack, and Jack is asking many transformative technologies fail because inventors are excellent scientists but poor entrepreneurs. So, beyond funding, what support systems does Unbound Science provide to help inventions survive the journey from prototype to widespread adoption?
I completely agree. Scientists need to remain scientists. They're not good businessmen, and they're even worse at marketing. And that's why we have these distribution channels. To be more specific, these distribution channels are third-party websites that match inventors with global manufacturing and partners. These big companies like Samsung will come in and partner with small startups to be able to mass manufacture their products way better than the small startup ever could on their own. And I think that's the proper approach. We want scientists to remain scientists and continue their inventions and continue doing what they're passionate about without having to deal with spreadsheets and budgets and paying taxes and all that other stuff that comes with running a business. And then having to compete globally and figuring out all the legal stuff. It is an enormous headache. Now, as we said at the beginning, the scientists still own all of their IP. No matter what they get from the donations, they still retain full ownership. They can do whatever they want. But now we're providing an alternative. And if they choose to go build a business themselves anyway, we have some AI tools that will help them with the marketing stuff. But after that, it's murky waters and they're swimming with sharks. So hopefully giving them a choice to not have to go that route, many others will choose that way.
Great. Thank you so much, Jack, for throwing in that question. Do you mind taking one more question
Yeah, go ahead.
before we wrap up? This is okay. Let's have Jeremy. Jeremy, go ahead with your question, please. Okay, we lost Jeremy. So let's get a question still from the chat. Mm, so a question here. I don't know. Do you guys have a moderator NFT model? Because I'm
Yes.
seeing.
So,
Yeah, can you hear me?
yeah, there's Jeremy. I'll answer
Oh,
both.
we have Jeremy back. So you can go ahead.
Okay, can I go ahead?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Oh, okay. Thanks for meeting me. Um, I had a question I wanted to ask, and it's a bit of a research from your website. So I know that DeSci space in 2024 to 2025 has been dominated by biotech and academical research projects, but you guys explicitly carved out clean energy, quantum, soil, water, and air, and waste management instead. Is it because you guys saw a genuine gap, or is it because the biotech's this side lane is already way too crowded with better funded competitors? What do you think
You're
about that?
100% correct. Yeah, you're right on the money. As we looked into the DeSci space, 99% of it is all biotech. And I figure, okay, these people already have biotech handled, but we don't see support for any other areas of science. So we'll provide that ourselves.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Thanks for that brief answer and straight to the point. I appreciate
Observation.
that.
Thank you so much,
Um,
Jeremy, for doing your research on that. You still want to say something? Okay. So thank you so much for jumping in to ask a question. So I wanted to ask a question here from Star before we wrap up the EMA. The question is, the moderator NFT model is unusual because NFTs cannot simply be purchased and must be earned through staking and participation. So what problem in traditional DAO governance inspired this design choice?
We had to look at US securities laws in order to figure out how do we create a token without it becoming a security, but we want to be able to do some sort of revenue sharing model. So the way our platform works is we use NFT technology for user identification. When you sign up on the platform, however you are, it mints an NFT in your wallet with a user ID. And that is what owns everything else that you create. So when people are staking their tokens, it's actually minting an NFT that acts as a revenue share. So let's say every 1,000 tokens, for example, we're not set on the number yet, creates one share. On the back end, the distribution model is actually paying out to the wallet that holds the NFT as opposed to the tokens. The NFTs are currently not classified as securities. And with the NFTs being soul-bound, they're not artistic works. They're just simply non-fungible, unique tokens in your wallet. And there's no market for them. We think that this passes that Howey test in addition to having people actually participate on that platform. It also allows us to unlock the moderator dashboard to any wallet that has a moderator class NFT in it. So it's a very simple way of us handling user classes and distribution sharing, as opposed to using the NFT technology like it's only been done before for like profile pictures. There's so much more that can be done with it. And this is an example of what we think NFT technology really can do.
Great. Thank you so much, staff, for throwing in that question over there. I can see a lot of questions about Unbound Science. It shows these are well-researched questions, and you guys have a lot of questions for Aaron. So the best you could do right now is to follow all the official channels, follow them on X, and I don't know, Aaron, do you guys have like a Telegram channel?
Yes, t.me/unbound science is our Telegram channel.
Great. So do well to follow and throw in whatever questions you have. I'm sure the team and even Aaron will be so happy to answer all of these questions. So before I close down the VC, I want to give you the floor, Aaron, to give any final statements you have to say.
I just want to say thank you to everyone for tuning in today, and thank you to Moonshine and Dr. Felix for setting this up. And I also want to announce that if you are a developer, you can participate in helping build Unbound Science. We're going to have a 5 million Unite token bounty for people who are pitching in for the production. And follow our Twitter for those details, as well as the white paper that is going to be dropped later this week. So those are two huge milestones for us, and we're hopeful that you will join our community and continue to support our mission. So thank you.
Thank you to everyone for the great AMA sections we had today, and see you guys in the next AMA. Have a nice day, Aaron.